Outreach Coordinator, as well as Science Program Associate here at Raritan Headwaters Association. Raritan Headwaters is a member-supported 501c3 nonprofit conservation organization. Since 1959, Raritan Headwaters Association has focused on one thing: clean, safe water for all. We engage citizens and decision makers in the protection of our watershed and beyond through our award-winning science and education programs, land preservation, restoration, and advocacy. We are the region's leading provider of water quality research, habitat restoration, and water protection services. We preserve and steward critical watershed lands. Raritan Headwaters plays a decidedly unique role, as no other organization offers a similar scope of services focused specifically on the Raritan Headwaters watershed. Next slide, please. To quote Luna Leopold, "Water is the most critical resource issue of our lifetime and our children's lifetime. The health of our waters is the principal measure of how we live on the land." Luna Leopold, Aldo's son, said that. So now it is my great pleasure to introduce our restoration coordinator, Robert Lucas, and he is going to speak to us about our Woods and Waterways program. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Tracy. Hi, everyone. As Tracy said, my name is Robert Lucas. I am the restoration coordinator at Raritan Headwaters. And one of my main roles here at RHA is to implement riparian buffer restoration projects. The past couple of years, we've already kind of started along that pathway, and we're formalizing it a little bit more through the Woods and Waterways grant program here. We are seeking municipal, nonprofit, and private partners to work with us on restoring riparian buffers within the Raritan Headwaters. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about what that looks like. And throughout the presentation today, we're going to look at why riparian buffer restoration might be needed, what is that involved exactly, who is eligible, and how participants will be chosen, what type of assistance the grant will offer, and then how to apply and be a part of the program. There are many rabbit holes that we can go into within this topic. And I realize there are likely going to be lots of questions. And my blanket answer to start is there are nuances specific to every site and every situation, and I won't be able to cover all of those within today's presentation. So please reach out. My contact information will be given within this presentation and can easily be found on the Raritan Headwaters website. But my focus today is just to introduce what we're trying to do here and how to be a part of it, and get you started on that path. So why are we focusing on riparian buffers? We have a vast network of volunteers and stream monitoring sites where we collect various parameters throughout the watershed. And every year we produce a stream report card that indicates the health of our waterways. Specifically looking at the habitat scores, we failed in a lot of ways throughout the watershed. We are seeing riparian buffers that are not healthy, and there are many reasons behind that, but our goal is to help restore them. You can see here that about 2/3 of the sub-watersheds within the watershed have failed their habitat assessments as of last year. So our goal through this program is to implement some projects to help there. We already know that water quality and forests, including riparian buffer forests, are closely linked. There's definitely a positive correlation with the percent of forest cover in any given watershed. So the Raritan State of the Raritan report shows that these forests are decreasing since 2012 and even before then. But we have had since 2012 nearly 12,000 acres of riparian buffers altered along Category 1 streams in the Upper Raritan. So lots of work to be done is essentially what that means. Here's a map just detailing that based on this 2012 data, where we have forest cover in decline. So how did we get here to start being able to address this? In 2021, I believe, there was an announcement for a request for proposals to be part of the restoration plan for the Cornell Dubilier Electronic Superfund site that is based in Boundbrook, New Jersey. There was a natural resource damages settlement that was collected upon through 3 different trustee agencies, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and NJDEP to oversee those natural damages monies and create a restoration plan based off of that settlement. Raritan Headwaters submitted a plan to plant 10,000 trees within the watershed to repair riparian buffers. And we were awarded that opportunity, and we are now to move forward on that. So when we talk about riparian buffers, there are regulations that guide their use in the state of New Jersey. For Category 1 streams, which include trout production streams and their tributaries, you're looking at 300 feet on both sides of the river or stream is defined as the riparian buffer. Anything that is an upstream tributary to a trout production water, a trout maintenance water body, those are all considered 150 feet on both sides, and any other water type there is 50 feet along both sides of the river. More details can be found in the state code listed here. So, given that, when we're talking about riparian buffer, we are talking about those forested corridors that are adjacent to streams. They provide lots and lots of ecosystem services to riparian corridor. Big one being shading streams and keeping water cool, which is essential to water quality. They help stabilize stream banks in heavy precipitation events and prevent erosion, provide habitat for wildlife, sequester carbon, filter pollutants from adjacent lands and stormwater runoff. We have lots and lots of benefits here. So that brings us to the grant program. I have a few important dates to keep in mind and consider here. We are at the informational webinar today, April 25th. We are posting a grant application as part of this program that I'll talk through here shortly. That can be found at the link below here, the Raritan Headwaters.org, Woods and Waterways Grant Program. And you'll find all this information, including the application and eventually these slides, and eventually this webinar recording as well. So the application is hopefully very straightforward and not cumbersome. And we are seeking applications for those that are wanting to be involved by June 7th, about 6 weeks from now, I believe. We will review applications and determine awards and partners that we will work with going forward by June 20th. And you will receive that notification before then. We are targeting the next plantings for this fall between September and October of 2024. We have about 10,000 trees, I think I already mentioned, that we are seeking to plant. We have already gotten started on that and, got around 2,000 planted so far. So we're looking to plant the remaining 8,000 or so. We will not plant all 8,000 this fall. There is strong likelihood that those that are site ready and ready to plant will start this fall, and then we will continue into 2025, both in the spring and the fall. So if you receive a notification, we may plant as early as this fall, but it may be pushed to 2025, but that can be involved in our discussion. Here's my contact information. If there are any questions during the application process, please don't hesitate to reach out. Just as a note, starting next week for about a week or so, I will be in the field every day and have more limited email access. So I realize that many of you may be encountering your first questions next week. Please still reach out and I will do my best to respond to you as quickly as possible. But we are doing a planting of 1,000 trees starting next week. So we'll be a little tied up. All right, so getting into the meat of it. The first eligibility requirement that we are seeking from applicants is to be a New Jersey municipal government, a school district, registered 501c3 nonprofit, or also private resident. Planting locations must be within 100 feet of the North Branch or South Branch Raritan River and or any of their tributaries. The project site must be a minimum of 300 stream feet in length along the stream's edge to be eligible. And you must use the materials provided to improve riparian buffers along any of these waterways. They cannot be used in any other context. So when we look at a map of these waterways, it includes the whole WMA 8 region, the Raritan Headwaters here. We have the South Branch that flows south and then through Flemington and back up north along the western side of the watershed. And we have the North Branch along the eastern side there, and any of the tributaries that flow into any of those waterways are eligible here. So you likely already have some sites in mind, and if you do not, there are a few different things that I can suggest on getting started to locate any potential sites to be involved in this project. The first is Raritan Headwaters website here. We have a extensive map of monitoring sites where we keep track of water quality data, and that map can be found by navigating through the tabs listed at the bottom of the screen there. Our work, water monitoring, surface water, our water quality data, and stream monitoring map. And each of those individual sites holds the record of all the water quality data that we have collected over the years, including sites that might be impaired and could benefit from water quality improvements that might be found through riparian buffer restoration. So this would be a good place to also just cross-reference any sites that you are already familiar with, just to inform your application to us and to be able to describe some of the expected potential improvements to the site. We also have a conservation blueprint, which is found at the link listed here. I'm sure many of you are already familiar with this site. There are many different types of maps and layers and things to explore within here. The water map shows all of the C1 waters here in yellow to help guide determining how wide to go on the buffer here. Remember, 300 feet is considered the regulatory buffer for C1 waters. We also have the, which map is this? Sorry. Within the, I think the same map here, we have streams with buffers, and there's a lot more granular detail as you zoom in. This image here is fairly zoomed out, but with this map layer turned on, we can see highlighted in the light blue greenish color the 50-foot buffer, and then in yellow the 300-foot buffer. So a couple tools just to help kick off any desktop computer research that might be done before going out to an actual site, help determine any possible sites. And I can also talk through some of that a little more for anyone that is not familiar with any of these and is wanting to get involved. So determining sites for proposing applications to us. Again, public, private lands are eligible here. We do want to emphasize publicly accessible land because the funds for this project are natural resource damages to the public. So we will be ranking public land higher than private land, but we are still considering private lands. It will receive a ranking lower than publicly accessible land. So getting out to sites and determining sites to perform a riparian buffer restoration. This site here was at North Branch Park in Bridgewater. This was the location of our very first planting that we kicked off here. And you can see this stream bank's edge of the park here. We have zero buffer in this section here, mowed all the way up to the stream's edge. Severe erosion that is happening, and we were able to create a new buffer here of around 50 feet through a planting here. But what we want you to look for in your sites is these types of components. You know, is there an existing buffer? How wide is that buffer? Erosion, presence of existing native species, presence of invasive species, percent cover of those native species, percent cover of those invasive species. Any other site conditions that are relevant? Right? Is the site known to flood? We were told that this site in particular, the structure at the back there could be underwater in the highest water events. So known history of the site, known use, all those kinds of things are important information to include and gather during this process. The application seeks to collect this information and like I just mentioned, what is the current cover at the project site? Trees, shrubs, grasses, bare, any native species present, eroding stream banks. If there is a problem with eroding stream banks, try and describe the problem in more detail. Invasive species present, flooding, and then another big thing is any site preparation that may be necessary before the planting. A site like this that is mowed all the way to the stream's edge just requires a little bit of mowing before the planting. Whereas other sites we have encountered, this is along Hertzog Brook in Morris County. We have lots of invasive species, vines, thorny brambles, and it would not be possible to plant directly in a site like this without any prior prep before the planting. So how extensive is any site preparation that would be needed? And the other consideration would be access to the site involved with site preparation. Is there reasonable access? Is there a log walk? Any trails that may need to be blazed? Or is it easily accessible like this site here? And then, of course, photos. The more the better. But we are requesting a minimum of 2 site photos here. And moving on to how we are going to select our applicants. I've already touched on this a little bit, but we definitely want to hear about any expected improvements in water quality and habitat quality. Good example of habitat quality would be for riparian corridor wildlife. You know, do we have known bat populations nearby that could benefit from planting species like shagbark hickory? You know, the same goes for bald eagles. You know, we are looking to improve habitat for not only the in-stream, but also the riparian corridor terrestrial species as well. Ability to assist in site preparation prior to planting. Raritan Headwaters has a vast network of volunteers that are eager to participate in projects like this, but we also are limited in how much we are able to do. So we are seeking partners that are able to take the lead in the site preparation and be able to do any of that, especially invasive species removal. We are willing to coordinate with you as to the best of our ability to bring volunteers to any preparations like that, but the more involvement from our partners, the better. The other large component to the selection process is the strength of a site maintenance proposal and continued follow-up of the planting for the next 5 years. A lot of these trees take at least that time to mature before we can let them do their own thing. So examples of site maintenance would be checking up on the planting post storm events. We see a lot of, because we're planting in the riparian buffer, we see a lot of sites that get flooded and debris that moves through the site, and they knock into trees and tree protection, and just kind of cleaning up the site after those types of events. As well as, at the end of the life of the planting, the removal of all the tree protection materials. Raritan Headwaters is willing to coordinate the reuse and recycling of those materials with some coordination, but the more that the partner is able to coordinate all of this, the better. Some sites will need some mowing, continued invasive species management. All of that is site specific, obviously, and can be coordinated throughout this process. And then the last thing here is a commitment to annual site visits to check up on the plantings, perform any of that site maintenance, and continuing to report back those site visits and information gathered to RHA for the next 5 years. So I will talk a little bit more about site preparation. Touched on this a bit, but you can see the photo on the right. This is a site that is now ready to plant in. We've kept all of the native species and flagged those for keeping. All of these invasive vines and brambles have been removed. Depending on the site, this can be some extensive work, and hopefully no site will be too daunting to consider, because we do really want to work in these sites as well. They just need more coordination and more effort from the partner side to tackle sites like this. When we are talking about the most worrisome invasive species that will complicate a tree planting, Japanese honeysuckle, Japanese knotweed, common reed, multiflora rose, tree of heaven, oriental bittersweet, calorie pear, Japanese barberry. These are some of the main culprits. We also have autumn olive and porcelain berry as well, and a couple others to consider. But when you're looking at your site and any site prep that may be needed before tree planting, these are at the top of the list to consider addressing. Things like mugwort, lesser celandine, those types of things will be less, we will be less deterred by those, and they will eventually be shaded out by a mature riparian buffer. But these can really hamper the success of a tree planting project. Another big site preparation thing to consider is any involvement from municipalities that may have the ability through their DPW departments to help auger holes. We are trying to plant container-sized trees, anywhere between 1, 2, and 3-gallon container sizes. So they can be on the wider side, and depending on the site, we see lots of compaction sometimes. This is an old DPW lot in PPAC in Gladstone, and there was a lot of compaction there because of the historic use on this site. And we also encounter, shale and rock, and depending on where we are in the watershed. So having some heavier equipment can be a huge advantage in getting these projects done. So if there is capacity for a partner to contribute this type of resource, it only makes the project that much easier. I really can't stress enough how happy volunteers who come on planting day and they see a site that is prepared like this. We get a lot of volunteers who are retired, and when we tell them we're trying to plant 1,000 trees, not having to dig any holes and use a shovel goes a long way in keeping everyone happy. So yeah, please include that in your application if there is an ability to make that happen. The other note to throw into your application is any strategies that you might be able to use to help recruit volunteers. Raritan Headwaters will take on the lead in this. You're able to create links for volunteers to sign up and register for an event, and then to handle any release forms and waivers and all of that. But anyway, through online or print distribution of events in advance to help bring out the community is a great thing as well. So we really want to seek public involvement here, both for educational purposes and also to help get these projects accomplished. So within the application that you will find on our website, we have some details on what we are seeking from the partner, and also what Raritan Headwaters is agreeing to provide through this program. I'm not going to read every line here. I've already covered a lot of this, but the main points are here is just to have something in writing. We will seek to actually have a signed memorandum of agreement that lists all of this out before moving forward on any projects. And some of this is flexible and negotiable based on specific sites that we can discuss in detail through email or phone. But I would just encourage you to review this, and if need be, share this with any committees that may need to see that. The main thing is that we want to see a commitment on the site preparation and the site maintenance going forward, as I've already talked about, and just spells this out in detail here. So the last piece to the application is the site maintenance proposal. And we just want to see it spelled out specific to the site being proposed for restoration. Any personnel and equipment needs that might be needed, that include an auger? Does it include a forestry mower that needs to help with invasive species removal? How many people and hours may need to be involved? And then also going forward, a list of maintenance tasks. Is there known Japanese honeysuckle, and will there need to be follow-up removal events in the first few years to address any new growth? And then any expected outcomes that we might anticipate from this site maintenance. So like I already said before, the picture on the left here is what we sometimes see with these high water events, and we may need to follow up after a storm to right things that may be leaning, replace any tree protection materials, and just continue to monitor the site. The other thing to pay attention to here is the picture on the right. This is vole damage to very healthy tree as it was planted, but only after about 1.5 years or so, the voles got to it. Voles do like taller grass, so any efforts to keep grass immediately around these trees on the shorter side, whether that be through mowing or weed whacking, is preferred. It's not always necessary depending on the site, but voles are, after deer, voles are public enemy number 2. So what is our goal here? You know, this is exactly kind of what we're trying to do here. We are looking to increase these buffers by up to 50 feet, possibly even wider, depending on sites. We are planting both shrubs and trees, all native species. We are providing protection from deer for all of these trees and shrubs, and hoping that within a few years that these will all grow into maturity and we'll have a well-established buffer here. That agreement that I mentioned previously, there is also a statement that involves what we are proposing to offer through this program. All materials associated with the trees and tree protection materials, including delivery of all materials, will be covered through this program. There is no financial obligation outside, partner involvement through any potential equipment like an auger or staff hours. We are providing the materials that are being purchased for this program here. We are also offering technical assistance, which includes the site selection, project planning, determining necessary site preparation, ordering all the site appropriate plants and protection materials, and coordinating both the delivery and then the event as well. We will also help with oversight to make sure that all these projects meet federal, state, and local regulations, and any adherences to the CDE Superfund settlement and its trustees. We will help promote each planting through our volunteer networks and actively recruit volunteers for all of these projects using social media and press releases. We will be on site to provide instruction, safety guidelines, and help raise awareness on the importance of riparian buffers. We will provide some, but not necessarily all, planting tools required for volunteers on planting days. Gloves, shovels, water, snacks. We do have a 2-person auger that can be used, but it is not always the best tool for the job. So in the case that we do need heavier equipment, we would not be able to provide that. We will obtain and provide certificates of insurance for all of our activities, and then also do annual monitoring on these projects, collecting data, especially on tree mortality and then also water quality, to hopefully see improvements over the years. So finishing up here, like I said, we have all of the information about our program on our website, which is here. We are hosting the PDF application form, which is a fillable form on this site here. And you can download that, fill it out electronically as a form, and send that back to us to my email, or you can also mail it to our address, which will come shortly and can also be found in the application. We'll have also slides from today to reference, and the recording of this webinar to review or pass along to anyone that was not able to attend today. And then to get a better sense of some of these projects and how we are working and what things might look like, we do have some upcoming tree plantings that you can participate in and get a hands-on feel for things. The Chambers Brook in White House Station, we're planting 874 trees over May 2nd through 6th. And then on May 8th, we are planting 80 trees along Hartzog Brook in Chester Township. We have all of these events listed on our calendar webpage, and you can sign up directly there. There may be some slots that are already full for some of these days. If that's the case and you would still like to come out and join us, please email me and I will make sure to get you further details about how to join us on any one of those events. We also have previous tree plantings that we've done over the past couple of years to visit to see what things look like and examples of how projects have been done. So we have North Branch Park in Bridgewater, Natara Park in, I guess that's Far Hills, the Hartzog Brook planting, which is coming up here and is in Chester Township by the Bamboo Brook Outdoor Education Center. And then we also have the Peapack Brook planting, which is just across the street from the Peapack train station in Peapack and Gladstone. So with that, here is my contact information again. I'd like to thank U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, NOAA, and NJDEP for their involvement and the funding and technical assistance and oversight on this project. And if there are any questions, I'm sure there are, go ahead and open it up to all of you.
Mute. Hi, Robert. Great job.
Thanks, Tracy.
I don't see any questions at the moment. They were coming in as you were presenting. Christy and or Mara answered a lot of them. You, you were very thorough, I think.
I'm sure I missed something, and I'm sure there will be questions as people dig into this. But yeah, if
Yeah.
anything comes up, please let us know.
Yep, please do. And this will be this recording of the webinar will be posted on our website. Kathy Redling is asking, can I request the tree plantings happen in the fall of 2025?
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely. If you have specific timing considerations, please just include that in your application. We, like I said, do have a limited amount of funds, and we are seeking to plant 10,000 trees through this program. So eventually there will be a we won't be able to plant an unlimited number here. So once we do receive enough applications that meet this metric of the 10,000 trees, anybody that we were not able to partner with through this program, you will keep your application and continue to seek additional grant funds to continue doing this work. So I do encourage you to get your applications in sooner rather than later, because this is a program that is limited to about 10,000 trees. Yeah.
John Cashwick, he'd like to know if they could do more than one site in their municipality.
Absolutely, yes. And my response to that is please fill out one application per site, because the application is asking specific questions about site conditions. It's much easier to review that information if there is one application per site.
Looks like there's one more question from Robert Lewis. What is your recommended number of trees per acre?
Yeah, that is a good question. Roughly 225 stems per acre is about a 10-foot spacing between trees. We can go, depending on like the use of the site, we can go a little bit denser or a little less dense. And that is something that we can coordinate through the technical portion on the review of the sites. It does not need to be figured out in your application. We're really just seeking site information versus logistical details about the planting and how many trees might be involved in species selection. That'll happen after proposals are selected.
Another question, what size trees will you be planting, and can tree protection include deer fences?
Yeah, so the smallest trees that we have are the shagbark hickories, which are closer to like a bare root size. And then everything else, the smallest size we're dealing with is a 1-gallon pot size. And then we also have 2-gallon pot sizes and 3-gallon pot sizes. That's all dependent on inventory and species. We have primarily worked with Pinelands Nursery to procure these plants. And in the application, there is an appendix of a sample planting list to get an idea of some of the species and the sizes involved. That is not a complete list. There are other possibilities, and we are open to recommendation based on your individual goals for a project. But that's just an example to get you started. And as far as deer fencing goes, I'm assuming you're asking about large deer enclosures, which are typically, 8 feet in height and have, wooden posts in the ground and can extend over a large area. I personally do not recommend those types of enclosures in the floodplain, in riparian buffers, because during high water events, we have lots of woody debris and down trees that will do significant damage to those large deer enclosures. And those enclosures tend to be very expensive. So what we're proposing through this program is the small deer enclosures that you may have seen in a previous photo here, which I will just go back to. So in the immediate foreground here, we have these shrubs that are being protected by smaller wire cages. And then the taller growing trees, we prefer to use tree tubes. And we found that both of these offer sufficient protection from the deer and also allow water and debris to move through a site a little bit easier than some of those large deer enclosures.
Fantastic. I don't see any other questions coming up, but if you do have any, please shoot Robert an email. I included my email in the chat as well. And we look forward to start collecting these applications, right, Robert? It's very exciting to see.
Yes.
There was a lot of interest. Thank you so much for all of you. Yeah, can't wait to plant some trees with you.
Yeah, no, we look forward to working together. And again, just a note that this next week I will be in the field quite a bit. So if you do not get a immediate response from me, please don't worry. I will be doing my best to respond to everyone as quickly as possible, but have to get through this tree planting here first. So please join us as well, and we can talk all day long about any of your questions if you come out and join us to help plant some of these trees.
All right.
So, yeah,
And
thank you.
with that, we'll see you guys soon. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
Take care.